and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're glad that you joined us for this episode where we will be discussing Spider
It
Noir.
won't be too disgusting, I don't
Well, I
think.
don't think it will be disgusting at all. No, not at
Yeah.
all. We will be discussing Spider Noir, which you had two ways you could watch it, right? I assume I watched it in black and white. Caleb, my co-host here, how did you decide to watch it?
Both. Both ways.
Both, but
Yeah.
black and white first.
Yes. Of
Okay.
course.
Well, in honor of watching it through, and we finally have that, I
Yeah.
have switched us. I have a little special. There we go.
Look,
we're
we're in
going
black and white.
black and white in our. Yep, there we go. So we are welcoming you here. We're glad to have you with us. Reminder that we are sponsored by presented by the Center for Progressive Christianity. Absolutely fantastic place to get all of your progressive Christian needs. Go to progressivechristianity.org. We're also sponsored by the Progressive Christian Alliance, which is a diverse, inclusive community reclaiming faith through justice, compassion, and radical welcome, as well as the Christian left, where following Jesus means standing up for the poor, the oppressed, and the truth, no matter how unpopular it gets. Now, Caleb, we definitely want to make sure we have some adult beverages, so this is a good experience. And I'm curious, what beverage did you go with?
So I was inspired by the whole noir of it all, but
Yes, indeed.
but actually not the color of the drink, just in terms of what they would have been drinking. And in one of the early episodes, the first drink that we hear him order is an old fashioned, and
Yeah,
so my favorite drink, an old fashioned. I've got an old fashioned
lovely.
right here. How about you?
It's also my favorite drink, but I figured that you might go that way, so I did not. In episode 3, Silvermane tells Ben, educate yourself. Try a green spot 10-year-old Irish pot still whiskey. So
Yes.
I have a nice glass of Tullamore the most popular whiskey in Ireland. So I figured, balance out the old fashioned as much as I do like it. I'm gonna do the old Irish whiskey. So cheers to you.
Cheers,
We'll have
man.
a quick sip, a little drop here, and we'll catch everybody on the other side. Hmm.
Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show, where today we are, of course, talking about Spider Noir, and our banner is now in black and white in honor of that. I saw you playing around with filters beforehand, Mark. I'm like, what is he doing? And what a pleasant surprise to know that
Lovely.
we were becoming black and white here. So just in case you don't know, we will spoil this for you in case you haven't seen it. So if
Thank you for that. I was so
of
excited
course.
about the black and white, I forgot that part of my job.
Well, I was so excited about the beverages that I
Yeah,
almost
fair
forgot too. But I will remind you just that if you haven't seen it, we'll spoil it for you. And we're gonna geek out here for a little bit about this. We're both huge Spider-Man fans, MCU fans, and so we're gonna geek out, and then we'll get into the theology and politics. So just in case you're unaware, Spider Noir is a Marvel series on Amazon Prime based on the comic Spider-Man Noir, who many of us came to know through Nick Cage's performances in the animated films Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. It's inspired by film noir and Depression-era New York, and Nick Cage reprises this role in the live-action series. So, Mark, we already talked about this a little bit, but the big question I think that everyone has when going into Spider Noir is whether you watched it in original black and white or true hue color. And so you watched it in black and white. Did you also watch it in color, or was it all black and white for you?
I only watched in black and white, but then I did, out of curiosity, go back and catch clips in color.
Yeah.
You watched it both ways.
Yeah, so I was going to watch it all the way through in black and white and then all the way through in color. I didn't have time to do that. So I
Sure.
decided that what I would do is I would watch the first 4 episodes in black and white and the
The last
last
4.
4 in color. Although
I'm
I
curious
found
about that experience.
well, okay, so at first, like it takes a little bit of getting used to in black and white, right? But
Yep.
this film, but I mean, or the series is made for black and white, and
It
so
feels right.
it feels right. I mean, from everything from the way that Nicolas Cage is speaking to the campy dialogue. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels like in order to get that, you really need to be watching it in black and white. And so when I switched to color, I found 2 things. One, that during certain scenes, I felt like I needed to stop and switch back to black and white, and so I did.
Oh, okay.
In several sequences, I'm like, oh, I need to be watching this in black and white. And so that is one of the cool things, right? That every time you open the app and you click on the episode, you get to choose one way or another. So
Yeah.
you just stop it,
Yeah.
you click the other, and you're in black and white. But the thing that I did appreciate about the color, because I think this thrives in black and white completely, black and white completely agree. But the thing I
Yeah.
appreciated about the color, and I think it's worth checking out for everyone, is the costuming and set design in
Yeah.
this is really incredible, because the vibrancy of the suits and the colors of the sets and stuff. I think the true hue is
Yeah.
good, is a good
They
expression of
basically
what that looks like.
they basically took the hue and amped it up, so it was
Yeah.
all colors were had a little more pop to them.
Yeah.
The clips that I watched, my head kept going to. It kind of feels like old comic books, like how they used
Yeah.
to use bright colors. You know, we've gotten to the point where
Yellows,
comic books
greens,
are all
yeah.
kind of moody and all of that kind of stuff, but it used to be really bright colors, and the colored clips for me felt a little bit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the fun of it. So I think it's worth watching. I would say, like, if somebody's just gonna go through and watch it once, I'd say just watch it in black and white. Maybe get the clips like you did to appreciate it. But a lot of people are saying, watch it once through black and white, once through color. I think it's worth at least looking at to see the costuming. So in canon, Mark, Spider-Man is typically Peter Parker, although there are other versions of Spider-Man, obviously.
Right.
Who's young and hopeful, often in high school or right out of high school. Spider-Noir is Nick Cage, who is 62, and this character is not hopeful. So how do you feel how do you feel about, I guess, the whole concept of Spider-Noir, and how do you think Nick Cage does with its execution?
I really Spider-Noir feels like they wanted Spider-Man to be more like Batman. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Detective. He's doing all this detecting. So it feels like they lean more towards that. But I think it's more I like it. But it is a nice counterbalance to all of these positive kind of outlooks that we get in the young Spider-Man stuff, and to not have to solve every problem, and to also not be he gets beat up a lot in this. He gets hurt a lot, and I kind of was like, that feels real. One of the things that's the kind of value of Spider-Man, even the young Spider-Man, is we talk about street level superheroes.
Yeah.
Honestly, this felt even more street level than what we usually get with Spider-Man, because it was real. It was on the streets. He did get hurt. He didn't always win. Sometimes he had to, change his way of going about stuff. I really liked that. It felt good. I think Cage does a great job. It was a little too old to play this role, but they made it work. They made it make sense. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought he did a great job. He kind of had 2 roles. He had the Ben Reilly role, where he had talked about how he had to watch old movies to learn English again and how to talk. And so you get the kind of Cagney type of talking.
Yeah.
And then he has several times where he takes on a character, the handyman, the whatever,
Yeah.
and he goes more Looney Tune. Like he's even
Yeah.
said that version is sort of Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And it makes sense with the backstory that he had to watch shows and television to
Yeah.
relearn how to communicate. I love that. He's one of the folks who can pull that kind of thing off. A lot of times his acting gets in my way of enjoying a role because
Yeah.
he's so him.
Mhm.
In this case, it pulled me deeper into the role. I really loved him in both of those types of presentation. What did you think of him in this role and the older Spider-Man and all of that?
So I thought I'm with you. Nick Cage is real hit or miss, right? Because he is very Nick Cage.
Yes.
It's like he's one of those actors like Christopher Walken or whoever that like you always know you're
Mhm.
watching that person. And I
Yeah.
think that Nick Cage was just the perfect amount of unhinged in this for it to work. Like I
Yeah.
don't think this show would have been nearly as enjoyable with anybody else. That he
I
just
agree.
is Nick Cage being Nick Cage, and it works for this
And
character.
he was having so much fun with his role.
He,
It's
he
really
was having
clear.
fun, and I mean, they made fun of the fact that he's old and out of shape, and that he can't really. And you're right, and I mean, obviously, his accent was way over the top.
Oh yeah.
But like you said,
storyline made that work though.
in universe, they made it make sense, and so it made it fun to watch too. It was both a parody and an homage to film noir, and I loved every second of it. I liked watching
Yeah.
it. I thought it was an interesting take, and I thought it was fun to watch. So since it's been fun to watch and well received both by audiences and by critics, I think it's setting at 92%. Fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes has a 90% audience score. I'm curious about where you think Spider-Noir is going to head in the future. Do you think we're going to get Spider-Noir in Brand New Day or Doomsday? Do you think we're going to get a season 2 of this? What do you think Spider-Noir?
Well, they worked real hard to make it clear that this was a different universe.
Yeah.
That even I think one of the very first lines was him voice over a shot of going through the city and him saying, the other day someone asked me a weird question, what universe is this? And why would you even ask a question like that or something like that?
Yeah.
So he's, matter of fact, he's not even supposed to be the Spider-Noir that's in the
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to see this Spider-Noir show up in anything else. There's not going to be any crossovers. I think they're going to offer a season 2. The question is, does Nick want to do? It's his first ever television series. He's never done one. So the question is, did he enjoy the experience? And will he feel like he's ready to do it? Or will this have taken such a toll on his older body that he's like, I don't know that I can do this again? I mean, a lot of times the stunt work they had, because of the costume, they had other folks in. But there was one pretty good fight scene where he was not in costume and he was doing great. He was just doing great. Yeah. So I think we might get a season 2. I think it all comes down to whether Nick. I'm sure they're offering it, whether he wants to do it or not. I don't think we'll see any crossovers. I mean, what are you thinking about that?
I don't think we'll see it in Brand New Day. Who knows about Doomsday? There's so many things they're throwing at the wall at on that one. Who knows what we're gonna get? I mean, they've said he's not going to, but who knows about that? Season 2, I think maybe. I mean, I do think he enjoyed doing it. It's clear
he seemed to
that
be
he's
really
having
into
fun.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I would welcome that. I think I'd be into a season 2. So one of the things that you said, Mark, though, was that it is clearly set aside from the MCU, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. One of the points of the last Spider-Man movie was to like converge all of the different things into a single universe, right? And then
or at least
got
the major ones,
the major, and then we've got this kind of off to the side. What do you think about that approach of like having a different universe? I guess what in DC they're calling like Elseworlds.
Go ahead.
I mean, well, do you
And
think
then,
that's going to continue to work for the future? Okay.
yeah.
Do you think audiences are going to be able to keep track of that? And if they're going to continue this approach, what other variants of Spider-Man might you like to see?
Mm. One, I think that they'll continue. I think it does work as long as you define it well up front and keep the expectations. It happens in comic books all the time. There's always these odd series of a retelling of a very popular superhero where
Yeah.
they change something up on it, and it's just kind of like it's Marvel's What If. Wouldn't it be fun if
Yeah.
Spider-Man was in the 1930s in a private eye?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fun. I think we should do it. And yeah, I hope we get more of it. And I don't know if we're going to get this in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. There's been some suggestion that we might. I really would love to see a man spider like movie or short series or something. That's for me. That's just it's a lot of fun and to think about what that looks like and how does it exist and see the different character that it brings to Spider-Man. I mean, what do you I mean, do you think that they're going to merge? Do you think they're just keeping this as a spin-off? And is that a good idea? And then I'm back to your question, who would
Yeah.
you want if they do some spin-offs?
I think it is gonna stay separate. I think, as I said, I think that he might appear in maybe Doomsday. I don't know, but I think it would be. I think it's fun to have these separate things, and I do think that audiences are familiar enough with the concept that they can be like, why are there multiple Spider-Man? And I
Yeah.
think one of the things about Nick Cage being Spider-Man is like I don't think anyone ever thinks Nick Cage is going to be the primary Spider-Man, and so I think just seeing him like a Spider-Man, everyone's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of a one-off thing. So I think even people who aren't super familiar with the multiverse stuff can be familiar with that or can accept that.
That's fair.
I'd love to see a live action Miles Morales. I think we got him, of course, in the Spider-Verse stuff, but I think that would be a great direction to head. He's super popular, a character of color, which we can use more of, and I think seeing him come to live action would be a whole lot of fun. So that's the Spider-Man variants we might like to see. But I've just got one more question. I'm going to sneak in.
Sure.
What classic Spider-Man villain do you think might be fun translated into the 1930s noir setting? Let's say we get a season 2. What villain you want to see?
Wow. Doc Ock, man. He already feels like he's a throwback to the 30s in his own way.
Mad scientist kind of thing.
Yeah. He's got the big goggles and
that's true.
I think Doc Ock might be my I'd love to see him in there. And with we might even get like a weird version because a lot of the bad guys we got in this were variations of other bad guys. Like they weren't.
Yeah.
There were a few that were pretty much like they were in the comic book, but there were some that were a little bit different. Based on how all the bad guys got their powers, Doc Ock could be really interesting and not have to have a mechanical arms. Could actually have like some kind of octopus arms because of the way this all goes about. He could have been another soldier who was being experimented on with animal DNA, and that could be really interesting because Doc Ock in terms of the technology doesn't quite work in the 30s, although they played loose and fast with technology anyway. But that's who I'd like to see. What do you think?
I think Green Goblin is always fun to see with Spider-Man. I think I'd like to see some version of Green Goblin here.
That was my instant instinct when you asked the question. My head first was Green Goblin, and I went, I'm going to back off of that.
I'd kind of like to see.
I like it.
I'd like to see kind of like a retro futuristic version of his stuff, of his technology and all. I think that'd be kind of fun. Okay, hey, I've got like 15 million more questions about this show that I would love to geek out about, but we do need to get into theology and politics. So
kind of important.
Why don't we? I guess Jesus. We are drinking moonshine.
Mysterio. Charles Ver online suggested Mysterio. That'd be another good one.
Mysterio would be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, they've got to do a second season just so we can see some more
Just so we can get
villains.
our bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
I like
love
it.
to see Nick Cage get his ass kicked by some other 30s bad guys. That would be fun. Okay, hey, let's take a break, take a sip, come back and talk about theology and politics.
So, in honor of your switching to color halfway through, halfway through our podcast, I've switched back to color for us. So
I love that.
we're
Yeah.
following your viewing style here. Let's jump right into this. So, Spider-Man Spider-Noir actually spends a lot of time kind of showing that, I don't know, the law and justice aren't always the same thing, right? Is that a biblical idea as well?
A super biblical idea. And, I mean, and not just like human law, but of course religious law too. That of course a lot of the laws of the Roman Empire were unjust for the people of Judea, where Jesus lived. That they were living under the heel of the Roman Empire, and that's what the whole taxes thing was about, right? Whenever Jesus was asked about whether or not to pay taxes, well, the taxes were super unpopular because taxes were going to fund the Roman occupation. So
absolutely.
So I mean, yeah, those laws were unjust. The tax law was unjust, for instance, but the religious laws were unjust too, because Jesus's society was one in which the religious laws, the religious purity system, divided people into classes and told people they weren't worthy because they had a sickness or because they had a mental illness, whichever ways they wanted to frame that. And they often said that they were unworthy because of some kind of moral failing, even though that wasn't true. And so Jesus spent the majority of his ministry confronting both of those laws, the political laws and the religious laws, and demanding instead justice. So I think Christians today have to do the same thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm glad you said, I think Christians today should do the same thing. When should Christians resist legal authority? At what point? Where's the line where it's like, it's time to show up and speak out and maybe do things that are going to be noticed?
Well, I think this is important because I think a lot of Christians really get this wrong, because a lot of Christians, when they're talking about legal confrontation, they are wanting to confront things like the First Amendment, where we get like a separation between church and state, and so they're wanting to legally challenge like whether prayer can be mandated in schools and whether or not students have to learn about biblical inerrancy in schools. That is not the kind of legal challenges that Christians should be doing. It is whenever we see systemic injustice that is actively oppressing our neighbor, well, that's something that we have to stand against, because that's exactly what Jesus did. He stood against those legal and religious laws that impacted people, and so he stood up against those. And so I think that when the line is, whenever we see people being oppressed, then we need to stand up. And I think those of us with privilege and power have to be willing to sacrifice and have to be willing to do it, and not expect the people who are living on the margins, people who are experiencing that oppression, do it for themselves. What do you think?
I completely
right as you get your drink. Mark, what do you think?
I completely agree. And it's sort of a setup question, because there's a lot of Christians who do think, well, there's a moment where it's severe enough that that's the line. Now I need to speak up. And no, the line is exactly what you said. It's the moment that laws start marginalizing anyone, the moment that laws start creating other classes of citizens, start creating inequality in any way whatsoever, rather than trying to cultivate equality. So, yeah, I mean, it is all the time. That's when we should, the moment that it's doing that, and there's not a moving line that, oh, it's finally severe enough that we should be doing something about it. It is The moment that it occurs. Matter of fact, before the law has a chance to marginalize someone, the moment that they're talking about the law that has the potential to hurt someone, to marginalize someone, to ultimately say someone's less than others. That's the moment we start then, and it can't be timid and it can't be polite. It needs to be very, very frank, very direct. It's what Jesus did. You brood of vipers. You got to call it out. It's the main base of what love looks like in life. Is you call out those kinds of things. So this is probably not going to be a surprising question because it seems like every time we talk about superheroes, in one way or the other, I come back to this question. Spider-Noir is much more willing, I would say, than sort of the traditional Spider-Man to use violence and intimidation.
Yep.
Where is the line between protecting people and becoming what you're fighting?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly it deals with so much. He's got a lot of trauma and it's unprocessed. He's got a lot of grief that he hasn't worked through, and so that's impacting the way that he is living his life. And there's this quote, where they say, I think his reporter friend who says he's a good guy despite everything he says, or something like that, or everything he does that leads you to believe the contrary. And so I think that, like, yeah, maybe his heart's in the right place, but like there's a lot of collateral damage along the way. He hurts a lot of people because he is hurting and hasn't dealt with that. And so I think that in terms of like violence, that violence isn't the answer. That's there's a line there, especially for Christians. And I think in terms of like how we process our own hurt and grief, I think it's important to do that because we often end up repeating those cycles if we haven't done the work, and we can end up becoming exactly what you said, the thing that we're trying to fight against. What do you think?
I mean, as much as I love superhero stuff, I think that almost all of them on some degree, on some level, even Spider-Man, even though I was kind of trying to pit them against each other just because that's kind of a fun Spider-Man, Spider-Noir. Ultimately, what we keep getting taught over and over again is that violence is a viable way of solving problems. And that's problematic because when you learn that, then it becomes this cyclical thing where you fix problems by violence and it just leads to more violence because it fixes problems, and you just keep doing that. And I think that we need, and I don't know how you make it entertaining. I don't have that answer. It'd probably be worth really putting time and thought into, because part of it is that the violence and the action is entertaining. But we don't seem to hold our entertainment creators to a level of expectations that say you're teaching really horrible things about the quote reality of life, and we need something better than that, because yes, sure, you're mirroring life. Maybe education also helps. Maybe we can show that there is, because there are examples in real life where someone did not have violence, did not use that as a problem-solving tool, and affected good, sustainable outcomes. And I think that's what we really need, a lot more of that, in my opinion.
It's kind of like there's this meme, I think I shared it last week, where it's got Bruce Wayne talking to Alfred, and he's like, Bruce Wayne says, I'm going to help the people of Gotham. And Alfred says, oh, great. What charities is the Wayne Foundation going to help fund? And he said, give me a bat suit, Alfred. Like it's that thing, like using violence instead of the positive ways we can use our influence to impact things.
Completely agree. So in this show, Ben Reilly he's essentially a reluctant hero, right? He becomes a hero, but he's trying to escape being a hero, really.
Yes.
He doesn't really want to be. And it just made me think of biblical stories where we so frequently see people that are reluctant to take the lead. what is it about that kind of story? Because frequently these are Bible stories where a writer has decided that that characteristic of a hero is desirable. What is it about that that seems to attract us? And is there something good about it, or is it kind of not really a great thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the iconic line of this series is "With no power comes no responsibility." And
Right.
whenever he finally delivered that and looked straight at the camera and said it, I mean, that was just a wonderful moment in the show because it showcased kind of who he is. But yeah, I think you're right that we do have a lot of biblical stories that where people are running away from what God is asking them to do. I think about
Hmm.
Jonah as a case in point, who runs
Right.
away from Nineveh,
Maybe the
right?
perfect example, right?
And so I think the reason that that's compelling is because it speaks to our own internal battle that we sometimes have about like, should I do what's easy or should I do what's right? And
Right.
I think maybe especially for like cishet white men, that's a battle, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that it isn't for other people. Like if you are living in a state of oppression, there really isn't a choice. Like you fight
Hmm.
or you can't survive. But like for people in privilege and power, there's maybe a temptation to do the easy thing instead of the right thing. And so I think
Yeah.
whenever we see that play out uh, in TV and movies and all that, I think it speaks to that in the Bible. I think it speaks to that own internal struggle when we see people end up doing the right thing. It is a
Mm.
reminder for us that maybe we should try to do the heroic thing or something like that. I think Jonah's an interesting example because he finally relents and gives in, does what God wants him to do, and then God doesn't destroy the people of Nineveh, and he's all mad about it,
Right.
because ultimately that's not what he wants, and so he learns
Right.
about compassion and stuff that
Mm.
that even going through you don't get to determine the outcome of that. You get to go through and
Yeah.
try to do what's right. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I think I agree with what you were saying. I also think part of it. Here's the pieces that I think are good about it.
Yeah,
The first one is that it tells the story of folks who are reluctant to do something that would be helpful, and I think that's encouraging for those of us who sometimes doubt ourselves. That it's a good story to keep repeating, so that we might find that in ourselves in the moments that we need it. Um, I also think that it is it speaks about power. I like the story of reluctant heroes because they're not seeking power. It's almost a warning of those who want to be heroes. Maybe we need to pay a little closer attention to them because there's something about that that feels like it's needing something that isn't always a healthy uh, approach to being powerful or being a hero in some way. So I like it. Ultimately, I think that there's a lot of helpful pieces to it. Listen, we could go on and on. I've got at least 4 or 5 more questions, but if we were to do that, we don't get to our favorite segment, the "Make Me Look Stupid" segment, and we just can't have that. So,
we've got to get
uh,
to it. Yep.
yeah, of course. So we're gonna take a quick break, finish our drinks on the way to the last part of the show, and we'll catch you on the other side of the drop.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. Thanks for sticking around for our final segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment, where we try to ask questions to make our co-hosts look stupid. And there are a variety of ways that we can do that.
Indeed.
But I don't know that this is going to make anyone look stupid as much as it is.
Mm.
I'm just curious about this question, Mark.
Yeah.
I was thinking we've got a lot of different versions of Spider-Man, including a lot of different live action versions. And so I
Yeah.
want to know, who do you think would win in a fight between Nick Cage's The Spider, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man? Who's going to win in a fight?
Oh my! You know what? I'm gonna do the unexpected, and I'm gonna say Spider-Noir. Even though he's
Oh,
older than the youngsters, he's
yeah.
more willing to go to the extreme. I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that he comes with several of the same skill sets they do, but then he also has this willingness to go a little bit further than they seem to be willing to go. So I guess that's where I'm going with it. What are your thoughts?
He'll probably have had a little bit of liquor in him beforehand too, so he'll be loose and
Yeah,
ready
that's
to
right. He's a
go.
little looser. Take the hit without it hurting as much.
That's right. I mean, I think nobody's going to say Andrew Garfield. I think that
Right.
that one, he's
A little too,
yeah,
yeah. He's
yeah,
he's a little all over, kind of
he's
soft, kind of.
yeah, he's an outsider, you know.
Yeah,
Part of me wants to say Tobey Maguire, you know, he was
I
my
get that.
original Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be Tom Holland's Spider-Man because of all the tech that's in that suit. And
Well, in the new movie, he's not wearing the suit anymore. I don't think.
oh,
So
okay.
you're
So
saying
I'm saying
you're
like
saying Tom with Stark suit.
with Stark suit. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
With
true.
the
I
Stark
didn't think
Industries
about that.
suit.
I didn't think about it like outside of the Stark suit, man. That
Yeah.
maybe that
Yeah.
changes things. But because I'm thinking
I mean,
because I'm
'cause
thinking
I
in the
didn't think of
suit,
it
you know.
either.
Yeah,
I didn't
because
think
I'm
of it
thinking
either.
in the suit there are going to be things going off.
You convi-
Somebody's coming
You
in, you know.
completely convinced me when you made that argument. So when you said with the suit, I was like, oh, I didn't think about this because I'm with you. I think he probably would
You're in the new
with the
timeline.
Dark
I'm
Industry. Yeah.
I'm not in the new timeline yet. I guess.
But in
So,
all of the clips in this new movie coming out,
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm not seeing
I
the
think you're
Stark
right.
suit.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would love to see that on screen. I want to see who's going to win. So
Yeah.
maybe someday. Okay,
Yeah.
how about you? You got a question for me?
I'm going to ask a question that I already hinted at. Considering the amount of detective work that Spider-Noir does, is this character just a way of making Spider-Man more like Batman? I insinuated that could be the case. I'm curious if you think that maybe could that have been part of the thinking when they started developing this, like a long time ago in the comics?
Probably because it came out the first issue in 2009, maybe
think that's
around
right.
that, like the late aughts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when Batman was really at its height,
peak,
right? And
right.
before the MCU really kicked off, we had the Hulk and Iron Man, but we hadn't had the Avengers
Yeah.
yet. And so, and Christopher Nolan was 2/3 of the way done with the Dark Knight trilogy, and that's
Mhm.
kind of where society was hitting. And it was still, I think, the Amazing Spider-Man came out in maybe 2012 or something like that. So we weren't there
That
yet
sounds
either.
about right. Yeah.
And the last Tobey Maguire movie we had was Spider-Man 3. and so I think that's probably where they were going. Although I think like in this iteration with Nick Cage, I didn't really get a Batman feel. I think that
Yeah.
that's what they were originally wanting to do, but like it really did feel to me like an homage to film noir. And
Yeah.
I appreciated it for that, like the comedic aspects of it, and
Mhm.
kind of the love letter to all of that. And so, yeah, I can see it, and I do think that was the original intent. But I think Spider Noir manages to break free from that. How about you? What do you think?
I think there's 100% that's where this, at least the core of this idea came from, is we don't have many superheroes where the footwork, the gumshoe work is what really, makes them the superhero that they are. You get, again, a spider character who is more willing to get gritty, more willing to get dirty on the streets, which is very Batman like. But I'm with you. I do think they said, but let's give it its own kind of personality. So they threw a little bit of the comedy in there, I think it works. I like it. It is fun to imagine this. I would not want this to be my main Spider-Man, but as a side story that we get to kind of explore from time to time, I am all in, and I hope that we get a season 2.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I agree. And I think that it's a fun way of experimenting with Spider-Man. And I'm glad that we've got a more optimistic, positive Spider-Man. I think there's a reason why
Agreed.
Spider-Man is one of the most popular was he
Yeah,
named
absolutely.
like in some polls like the most popular superhero? People just
He
love
has. There have been
Spider-Man.
polls that have definitely worldwide. He's been named as the most popular superhero. I don't know
Yeah.
if you narrow it to countries, it might change up, but yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, but fun to watch. So
Absolutely.
I think we've already said this that we're
Yes.
going to watch Spider-Man: Brand New Day this week. It's coming out. How can we not? We were going to
Exactly.
be watching it anyway, so of course we'll be talking about that next week on the Moonshine Jesus Show. It's preparation. I've started going back through and watching the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And so one quote from the first one that struck me as you were talking earlier, Mark, is Iron Man says to Spider-Man at one point, you know, if you have to have the suit, you don't deserve to have the suit. You know, like if you have to have the power, you don't deserve to have the power. And so I think that's one of the things that is fun about Spider-Man. And I can't wait to see what it looks like in this new timeline and how they deal with all of that. Yes. You ready for it?
I am so ready. I have my tickets. I will be at the largest screen in town watching it the first show on Thursday morning when they play it.
All right, man. Okay. Hey, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. Appreciate your willingness to listen to us geek out about all kinds of nerdy stuff, the shows that we watch, but also theology and politics. And we talk about all the stuff that you're not supposed to talk about. And that's why it's so much damn fun. And I'm glad that we get to do it every single week. Can't wait to see you next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine